What is the best racing video game of all time? Where does your mind immediately go? Of course, to Cars, the video game. The graphics, stellar. Gameplay, mind-numbingly boring. I mean, it's great. Sound design,
one for the lady.
Perfection. Playing this game just really makes you feel like you are Lightning McQueen. But what if I told you that there is a better one out there, waiting for you to grab the steering wheel? One game that perfects the formula of racing as a concept in video games. It's the one and only Sonic and Sega All Stars Racing! In this video, I will be arguing why I think this game is an underrated masterpiece and the pinnacle of not only racing games, not only Sonic games, but of the concept of human creativity in general. Let's take a look at the roster, because when they say Sega All Stars, they mean it. We're talking about the legends, the likes of Billy Hatcher, Amigo? Ulala? What the fuck is this? To be serious for a moment, I don't hate any of the characters in this game at all. There is some crazy variety and representation here. My man BD Joe from Crazy Taxi, the stylish Bonanza Bros, and the weird Opa Opa being some of my personal favorites. Each one with a really creative, visually appealing, and fun vehicle that with 4 varying stats offer enough variety to make them really distinctive to play. Specifically looking at U-Tails, it's impossible to keep this garbage in a straight line. Yet they are still straightforward to the point and easy for anyone to pick up and play. I would say that the key to master Sonic and Sega All Stars Racing is to manage your speed boosts. It's the main difference between the pros and the beginners. It is one of the 4 main stats and determines how quickly you build up your boost by drifting and how fast it accelerates you. There are 3 levels of boosts, blue, orange, and red, and if you can chain together these boosts that you get from the different speed pads, trick jumps, drifts, and speed items, while still keeping yourself on the course, you will demolish levels. High speeds is usually what you will need for many of the level shortcuts and skips in the game, and will actually render you invulnerable to on-stage hazards. Additionally, if you're speed boosting in the air and manage to land on an opponent, you will squish them and stop them dead in their tracks. This energetic approach to make boosts as powerful as they are makes each race an addicting challenge to take the riskiest turns and shortcuts, desperately trying to avoid slowing down. There are 10 different items to use, all of which are quite basic and function more or less exactly as one could imagine. They're important for breaking up the flow so that the game gets that chaotic hint of randomness thrown in there, which by the way is the only reason I've ever lost a race to my brother. The goddamn upside down star or a miasma of homing rockets can throw skill out of the window sometimes. And when it comes to the projectiles though, I am a big fan of how the character portraits show up on the bottom of the screen to make it possible to hit enemies behind you with the boxing gloves or the traffic cones without having to actually look behind, which makes it really difficult to stay on the track. Also, I like how you can get most items in triplets as well as individually, and how they can be deployed at the same time or one by one, giving the player a lot of freedom and control. However, every item pales in comparison to the main event here. The All-Star. It's the item that represents the whole game in one fleeting moment. Chaos, absurd fun, ridiculous speed, and amazing presentation. Each character has a unique all-star move that can completely upset the outcome of the race. It's more likely to show up in the item capsules the further behind you are. Think the rocket in Mario Kart, just superior in every way possible. Some of my personal favorites is the Choo Choos summoning a giant nightmare cat to devour you, I eating a banana that clones himself into 4 marbles that then run you over, or Akira jumping out of his car and hitting it so fucking hard that it enters the speed of sound. The All-Stars are ridiculous, unbalanced, completely overpowered, and so much fun. Almost every track has shortcuts, alternative routes, or possible skips that make them more interesting. I also love how the perspective and the gravity so often shifts to create a really visually exciting track where you're doing so much more than just driving forwards. There are 24 different stages, 20 playable characters, 6 different cups, 64 missions, and a time trial mode for each level. I love most of the content. The biggest criticism is that there should be more of it. And also the fact that the party games are awful. I really don't know why this part of the game is just so underdeveloped, because that's the main problem. Like, we have 3 maps that are all essentially empty. One of them is a circle with a pathetic pantheon in the middle. The next one is a square with a shitty bridge that nobody even seems to bother driving onto half the time. The entire map is also just consisting of 2 fucking colors, blue and brownish orange. And finally, we have the worst one of all, which coincidentally is the exact same map that is home to one of the worst designed bosses in any video game ever. Which, don't worry, I will get into. An even bigger square with annoying walls and an embarrassing attempt to avoid just outright having an empty field of grass. Which, honestly, I don't even know if it would be any worse than this garbage. It's still just an empty field, except it's harder to do anything without just crashing into a wall. Along with some really bare bones game modes where I'd say really only the Chow Chow thing is worth playing at all, and even that is very questionable. Some people I've played with think it's the worst one, and honestly it doesn't even matter, but personally I think King of the Hill might be the most embarrassing one because, wait, I don't even need to explain it, just look at it! They just spawn in random circles and give each player unlimited boxing gloves. Yeah, what a creative concept. That's gonna take like a whole 20 seconds to get stale. At best. Let me clarify, it can be fun to drift around and shoot at each other, but there's just nothing more to it than that. The player with the highest score wins, and it's the same thing with a different skin every time. Whether you get points for hitting other idiots, collecting infinity stones, or being in a glowing circle. It gets tired and repetitive quickly. No, immediately. Wait, actually, it even sounds pathetic to just hear it explained out loud at all. The only reason I could possibly find to rationalize playing them more than once each is if you want to elevate the experience of racing normally right afterwards and experience that insane gap in quality. This is the main drawback to the game, that the party games are completely unfinished. Moving on, there's actually 64 single player missions that you can power through on your own, and they are welcome as they give you something different to do and a reason to play on the different maps. However, most of them are repetitive. It's usually either win the race, win the cup, win the knockout round, drift or boost as much as possible, and only rarely does it try something a little bit more interesting like avoid the pots or defeat the boss. Although I do enjoy the time trials and some of the ring levels and some of the tenser knockout rounds where you might barely squeak out a win. However, they're also way too easy for the most part. I one-shotted or two-shotted basically every mission, and I'd like there to be some more difficult content for the percentage of the player base that actually like the game enough to go through all of these missions in the first place. And then you come to the 64th and final mission. Save the world, Sonic! It's just a big Eggman robot stomping around in a square. I mean, it seems easy enough. And yet, this boss made me lose my mind. Relative to what comes before, this is probably the hardest final boss I've ever fought. It feels like they made a mistake, that they just forgot to add another 30 seconds to the timer or something. For some unexplicable reason, they decided to only let the item capsules drop you the knockout gloves or the traffic cone mines. And the robot walks around in that little square in completely random directions. So it's impossible to plan out where you should put the mines. They're completely worthless. And so, it's all about driving around and getting lucky with the item capsules, as well as landing your hits and not getting too close to the robot, of course. Which is easier said than done, considering Sonic's car isn't exactly designed for precision shooting. However, when I was getting close to the 1 hour mark of playing this mission, I actually started to get close. Not every time, mind you, as you do need the gods of chance to favor you in order to have any sort of hope, but eventually I got a run where I was in a good position to beat it. And as any player of difficult video games know, that is when the real frustration begins to rear its ugly head. What? Come on! Die! I'm experiencing real rage at a boss in Sonic and Sega All Stars Racing. And half an hour later, again. Come on! No! No! And again 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 and again. And then one more time, just for good measure. And then again. And after 2 hours of playing this garbage masterpiece of game design, I present to you the winning run. And after all of that, ironically enough, it was those worthless traffic cone mines that ended up handing me the win. Oh, let's go! How? What happened? He walked onto the... Oh my god. Woo!
And thus concludes the saga of the final mission, wherein Storm of Magic relied on brilliance, skill, and definitely not any sort of luck to best his foe. Tune in next week if you wish to observe yet another magnificent performance of pure skill and hard work. Same Storm time, same Storm channel. Excuse me for talking about this one mission for so long, but it just really felt like the ultimate challenge for this game. We've covered just about all the content, so what's left now?
You may or may not have noticed it, but this video has exclusively been using music from the game itself, which is an integral part of bringing life into Sonic and Sega All Stars Racing. It's more or less a collection of the greatest hits from Sega's games, many of them altered or remastered, but all of them absolute bangers. I've been having just as good of a time playing along on guitar as I've had playing the game itself. Rock-oriented, energetic, and epic are the words that come to mind. Wildly different from Sega franchise to Sega franchise, yet badass and captivating all the same. The most iconic ones are probably the themes used for each of the characters' different All-Stars. I love them all, but Jackie and Akira has perhaps my favorite. It's Akira's theme from Virtua Fighter 5, titled Statues. It seems to me that they managed to find the songs that are just instantly iconic when you hear them and repurpose them for this game. And this one in particular is just so in your face, it fits perfectly for a guy who punches his own car to make it go faster. It's the kind of game where you never have to play music or videos on the side at the same time, because the soundtrack is so varied, energetic, and full of life that the game ends up feeling hollow without it. It's the ultimate Sega soundtrack, if you ask me, with all-time best from everywhere and everyone. It even allows you to choose the music track when you start up a race. This is the golden standard, and I will hear no arguments suggesting otherwise. But now, I'm really finished. What else could I even talk about at this point? The hilariously redundant Sonic Says load screens? The DS version? You want me to talk about the sequel that literally crashes whenever I try to play a race? I don't think so. I'm happy with everything we've gone through at this point, and I just want to thank you all for watching.
Wait! Storm of Magic! What about speedrunning?
What? What are you even talking about? This isn't Mario 64 or Metroid. Nobody is speedrunning a Sonic racing game that everyone forgot about like 10 years ago anyway. There is just no possible way that anyone in the world has so little to do with their time that they would speedrun Sonic and Sega All Stars. What the fuck? As it appears, there actually is a community for speedrunning in this game, with 1,000 different categories. And how could I try to claim that I am the biggest fan of this game if my name doesn't show up whenever someone checks out this page on speedrunning.com? You know, the one time every 5 years some lost soul stumbles into it. My name with a golden trophy next to it, holding a world record. And there's no way I'm going to attempt an entire cup here, so I'll just try to go for my favorite level, which means I avoided any frustration, right? Yeah. 2 days later, and I'm on the verge of a mental breakdown. I'm not getting any closer to those top times, and one factor, or convenient excuse, depending on how you see it, is that I'm not playing on a controller, which would allow me to do the double drift thing that most people use, which is pretty hilarious, by the way, because if you hold down both the joystick and the direction pad in a direction at the same time, their inputs are just added together, so your vehicle can suddenly make comically sharp turns, which just isn't possible on keyboard. And I'm also just not on that same infinity boosting level as some of the professionals here, but looking at the leaderboard for this level, I do actually have one person beat. Never mind that it's the worst time on the entire board, and look how this person is the only one who played as Sonic. So actually, if we use this convenient filter right here, I've got him beat. And he's got that gold trophy that I'm looking for. So, let's submit. Ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you the Yo, slow down! I don't need a drum solo, okay? I said I just needed one normal drum roll to build a little bit of suspense, okay? I don't need all three of you going ham on the drums, okay? Are we good? Just do it over again. Normal drum roll. I don't need anything special. Okay? Thank you. Let's try again. Ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you the current world record holder of the fastest speedrun of the level monkey target in Sonic and Sega All Stars Racing, specifically time trial glitchless with the character Sonic. Me! Take that, Iron Invoker 24. You have been dethroned. Your reign is at an end, and I shall hold this record for the rest of human history. Mainly because, realistically, nobody's going to even try, but my point still stands. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you in the next video, which probably means in about half a decade at this rate, but anyways, thank you for watching. Have a great day. I just wanted to talk a little bit more earnestly, unscripted at the end of this video, and thank anyone who actually came this far for watching. These are very editing intensive videos that take a long time to make. This one has been in the works for a half a year maybe, and there's a lot of work that goes into writing the script itself, playing the game obviously, trying to analyze it, try to come up with jokes, try to come up with what kind of edits I can make, and what to actually do within the game. And it kind of becomes this mishmash of a bunch of different styles that clash together, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The entire video is this kind of weird monstrosity of different things throughout, and it's very fun to make, but it does take a long time. And for me, the main thing is just that I want the video to stand the test of time. I want to look back on this in 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, and still be like, this video I did the best I could with. It's all I wanted it to be, basically. And that's never actually going to happen, you know, because nothing is perfect. But I want it to be as close as possible. And that's also why these things take so much time. But thank you who watched the video, and I want to thank my dad who bought the game for me, or I guess hacked it off a legitimate website some time ago. It's the one that I actually grew up with this game. Thanks to my friends who played it with me throughout the years, to my brother for playing with me. Those experiences and this video and this game means a lot to me, and none of it would be possible without any of you. So thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for listening.